Hey guys, DM Scotty here. Welcome to DM's Craft. Today is yet another pillar video, but I have a few interesting things in it. One thing is I'm going to do a marble pillar instead of a stone pillar. So I'll show you that technique. Also, I am going to kind of mix two types of materials in the pillar. The base is going to be from a cast piece that I cast in a plaster, and the other piece is going to be just a cardstock pillar. So I'm going to have the cast base and the cardstock pillar. Now the base comes from a HIRST Arts mold, and I'll talk more about that in the video. But the HIRST Arts molds can be expensive. I don't like to do my construction out of HIRST Arts molds like some DMs, but I do like to do some accents from them. And this is totally optional. They're fairly expensive, so and messy. So if it's not something that you're interested in, you can always just add another base. You could actually add, you could use a cola lid and glue the pillar to it. So there are other options here, but I just wanted to show how you can kind of mix the two media and create something. So we'll go to the table and we'll talk about that now. So as I said in my intro, this is a lot of character for me, but I'm actually using a third-party mold. This is a HIRST Arts mold, and these are great. Now this one is more for details. It has like little details in it. There's a door here and some other details, Gothic details. And these are great for adding to your dungeon tiles. Now they have ones that are just made up of like blocks and stuff where you can actually build up the structure. But this one is more just the details. So I actually have just bought a couple of their molds, and they can be really handy. So now what I did was I cast out of this mold, and particularly what I'm using it for today is I cast this piece out of the mold. See if I can show you there. It was there, and it's like the base of a pillar. So there's what it looks like. So it has a nice little detail on it. So I'm going to do part of this. I'm going to use the base, and then I'm going to make my own pillar like I've done in other videos. So I could, you know, there's only half the pillar in this, so I have to cast this twice to get the base. Which can be one problem with this because they have pillar pieces in here, but you'd have to cast this multiple times, this one mold multiple times to make the whole pillar. So I'm just casting the base and then making the pillar itself out of cardstock. So I'm kind of combining the two techniques. So now when you cast this stuff, you can use just plaster. A lot of people use dental plaster. There's tons of information on the site, which is great. It really helps you do your own casting. But one thing I've really found that really helps me is spraying the mold with the mold release. And that what I found works great is to get the stuff like a jet dry stuff that you just put in the dishwasher, mix it with water, a small part of the, maybe a quarter of the bottle of the jet dry with a whole bottle, with a whole spray bottle of water, and then just spray it in the mold before you put the plaster in, and then dump out the water, turn the mold over and dump out the water, and you'll be left with a film of the stuff in the mold, and that'll really help release, not just release, but the jet dry stuff works by making the water smoother, or it breaks down, I don't know exactly how it works, but it makes the water smoother so that it will get in all the liquid plaster will get in all the details. So that really helps with your mold to pick up all the details. So that's a nice little tip that I've learned. But all the rest of the casting stuff, you can get that from their site online. They have a lot of fantastic information. And these are not cheap. This is mold number 42. These are not cheap, but they'll last pretty much your entire crafting career. So I really like a few of these just for these nice details that you can get. And I've used these quite a bit in some of my scenery. So it's a good investment. But it's not something you need to do. You could always make this stuff out of cardstock. I could make the base, you know, out of card or cardboard, and you know, it'd be still cool, but I really like the detail on this base and I want to use it for my pillar. So that's where we're starting there, and we'll move on from here. So now I've got the two bottom halves of my pillar cast, and I need to put those together. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use this stuff called goop. This stuff worked great. I love this stuff. I used to use epoxy, the two type, and you mix it together. But this stuff is already mixed in the bottle. It holds great, and it's not very expensive. So this stuff is good for this kind of thing. Now, I could use the glue gun for this, but since this is a little heavy, I figure the goop will give it more strength. So I'm going to go ahead and put the goop on there. And then I'll just push those together. So now I'll just let that dry and I'll have the base of my pillar. So now for the pillar itself, I'm just going to use the cardstock like I did in the others. But this time I want a hexagonal shaped pillar. So what I've done is I've made 6 bands, a 1/2 inch wide, and then I made a 1/4 inch wide tab so I can put this together. So what I'll do is I'll curl it up, and then I'll glue that tab there, and so I'll have my hexagonal pillar. Okay, and that'll go on top of my base. Now I'm also going to put bands around the pillar, 1/4 inch bands, to give it another little detail. And then when I glue this, what you could do to get the hexagonal shape, you could turn it upside down and either draw inside or outside and trace inside or outside and get that hexagonal shape, and then draw a couple flaps on it and then put it on the top. So now I'll show you my completed pillar and the base. Here's my base, it's dry, and I'm going to take the pillar and glue it on top, so I'll just put it like this. So I'm combining the two techniques to make the pillar. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hot glue this on, because this isn't as heavy as the two pieces of the base, so the bond won't need to be as strong. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Make sure you get it in the center there, centered as possible. I'm just eyeballing it. Push down a little bit, and there we go. We have our pillar. So now we'll paint that up, and we'll be ready to go. Now the room that I'm putting this in is a mausoleum, and it's going to be a different color than I usually use. It's going to be more like a sandstone color. So I'm going to start by painting this a gray primer instead of black or white, and then I'm going to dry brush a lighter color on it, and then put some marbling veins in it like marble. So we'll go ahead and paint that up, and then we'll move on to the next step. Here's my pillar painted gray. You can see that there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a lighter color on it. I'm going to use a toffee color. It's a little bit lighter than, or a little bit darker than like a linen type paint. So I'll get that on my brush. And I'm dry brushing, so I'm just picking it up, not putting any water on it. And then I'll just start . So there we go. That's a nice marbly looking pillar there. And let that dry. So I've zoomed in quite a bit so you can see what I'm doing. So I got my pillar here, and I'm going to use a very thin brush, and I'm going to get a little wet, and I'm going to pick up some gunmetal. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to make some veins into this pillar. So I will just pick a side and then just start kind of dragging the brush very lightly. It's a takes a very soft hand. All right, so there we go. We've got our pillar with some veining on it. Kind of lay it down so you can see it there. There we go. Now I'm going to do one more little detail on this, and then we'll be done. So I was going to give this one last extra touch, and there's some detailing on the base, so I was going to paint that gold. So I'm going to use my thin brush again, and I'll dip it in the gold, and then just start adding it. And this is very subtle. The pillar itself is already light, so it's not a big detail, but I want to kind of accentuate the importance of the person who is buried here. All right, so there we go. There's our gold on our base, and just a little extra accent to make this look more regal. And I'm gonna lay it down to show you. So there we go. There's our granite pillar, and it'll look great in our mausoleum. And we'll see you next time on DM's Craft. Hey guys, if you're really digging these videos and would like some more information or to talk to other crafters, look at the link below in the description, and you can join my forum on the DM's Craft. We'd love to have you, and I'll see you there.